Hey folks, welcome back to Job Africa. This is Chris once again, and today, the 30th of October 2020, yet another incident in the gangster's paradise that has become South Africa under ANC rule. 26 years after the end of apartheid, the new dispensation, the level of violent crime, the horrific violence taking place in South Africa is unbelievable and unparalleled in civilized societies around the world. This will not come exactly as a surprise to South Africans or shock of this news report, but today, yet another case of a cash-in-transit heist. This from News 24 less than 2 hours ago. A tow truck driver was killed and a security guard injured as paramedics responded to a shooting on the corner of Hendrik Potgieter and Ontdekkers Road in Florida, which is west of Johannesburg. Now, this was another cash-in-transit robbery, and this was an incident in which, once again, commercial-grade explosives were used to blow up the back of the armored car in order to gain access to it. Early reports suggest that the death of the tow truck driver is directly related to the cash-in-transit robbery. We saw a report from Youssef Abrami with Crime Watch that the tow truck driver was shot in the chest and dead after he followed the gang, who were reportedly traveling in three vehicles. Three vehicles that ambushed this one cash-in-transit vehicle. When will security companies in South Africa, when will the South African Police Service begin to actually take this situation seriously? In 2017, the most recent stats available from the most reliable source, not from the South African Police Service, who underreport these crimes, but from the actual South African Banking Risk Info Center, they reported 376 cash-in-transit heists in 2017 nationwide. That's more than one per day, ladies and gentlemen, around the country. These crimes are committed by highly organized gangs, as I mentioned, three vehicles in this case, coming in multiple vehicles, armed with ammunition, with no compunction about murdering people in cold blood. We saw just last week another cash-in-transit heist in which the vehicle pulled up behind them with a pickup truck loaded with these gangsters. They ran out on the street. The guard who was walking out past the bollards, bringing cash out to the back of the vehicle, realized he was being robbed, dropped the bag, stepped away, backed away, offered no resistance, put his hands up like this. They bum-rushed the cash-in-transit heist and stole the things from the back of the vehicle. While he stood there, one of the gangsters came up behind him, pushed him to the ground, leaned down, and executed him with a single shot to the back of the head. This is unbelievable, horrific. Why is this a priority crime, as it's termed in South Africa, not genuine a priority? Why does this continue? One has to begin to wonder who is connected to these crimes, who is profiting from these. Now, there are various reports and lots of investigations as this has spiked over the past 4 years in South Africa, but it does not seem to be ending. It's only becoming much worse, if anything. Now, these attacks are often marked by more than one vehicle. These folks are armed with AK-47s typically and pistols, and they oftentimes shoot out the tires to disable an armored car so it can't go any further. Or, as I mentioned, they do the cross-pavement attacks in which a guard is walking out with the cash, and then they take out the guard right there and steal the money. Shooting people in the back of the head, execution style. This is unbelievable. There are many reports of South African Police Service officers being complicit or involved in these cash-in-transit robbery schemes. Now, many of these are low-level officers. That really isn't the issue. How is this happening? Why is this allowed to happen? It's unbelievable, folks. Gangster's paradise in South Africa. For South Africans, this is not news. You hear this each and every day, but the world does not know. Hashtag the world must know. It seems like the only thing that's more dangerous to be in South Africa than a security guard for a cash-in-transit mission would be be a commercial white farmer in South Africa. Also a group highly targeted by organized crime and gangsters in a domestic terrorist campaign. The shamefulness of these brazen acts, the disregard for human life, and the callousness of this conduct is beyond comprehension, ladies and gentlemen. The reason we have the Federal Bureau of Investigation is because it was organized to deal against organized crime. That's why we have a Federal Bureau of Investigation here in the United States. Why can the South African government not get this under control and stop this wanton violence and destruction and callousness towards human life? But, of course, it continues across all specters of life in South Africa, ladies and gentlemen. It's not simply cash-in-transit heists or farm murders. It's also gender-based violence, raping women and girls, and then murdering them after torturing them. Why? Virtually no one is prosecuted for rape in South Africa. Why would you murder someone after you've already horribly treated them? It's shocking, the level of violence that takes place in South Africa. And the world does not pay much attention to it at all. Not much attention at all. Why is this? We have to begin to ask ourselves this question as 2020 comes to a close. Why does the world ignore what is happening in South Africa? And for the bigots and racists and for the trolls who will attack this reportage, you'll notice that I said South Africans. That includes all South Africans. So take your nonsense elsewhere. We're talking about the horrific violence that occurs against all innocent South Africans, black, white, colored, and Indian. Just that some crimes are particularly egregious and more noteworthy. For instance, these cash and transit heists, for the fact that these guards who make very little money are executed. For what? For working, an honest living, executed by gangsters. And their death seems quite blasé to the security services. South Africa has many intelligence service capabilities. Why are intelligence services not being brought to bear to help the police? Or are they being brought to bear? If they are, then they're highly ineffective because the results speak volumes against the efficacy of crime fighting in South Africa. Access to AK-47s, which are so easy to acquire across Africa, makes this a problem that will not go away and will likely be with South Africa for a long time. The inability or unwillingness of the South African police service to deal with this effectively, the incompetence and underfunding and poor management of the Department of Justice and the justice system in South Africa is part of the problem here as well. You must capture criminals, you must charge them, you must prosecute them, and when found guilty, they must go to jail for a very long time. Otherwise, there is no disincentive to this conduct. And this is why South Africa is in the mess it's in. There is no disincentive to this. Folks, this is sad. Another cash and transit heist taking place early this morning in Florida, just west of Johannesburg. Tow truck driver who tried to do the right thing. Followed the gangsters and then was shot for his actions, apparently. This is yet another case of a South African intervening to do the right thing and dying at the hands of gangsters. We saw this just a little over a week ago in Soweto, in which a young man was shot dead because his friend was being accosted by a gang of Tutsi, and they were going to take her off and rape her and most likely murder her. So he helped her escape under the gate to get back into her home to safety. And for his good deed, they murdered him. Virtually no coverage in the South African press, no caring about this, nobody up in arms. The economic freedom fighters, the government of South Africa, which likes to pander with virtue signaling, empty virtue signaling, with the nonsense about Black Lives Matter. Nothing said about this young man whose life was snuffed out. A black man. And nothing at all said about the lives of women and children and commercial farmers raped, murdered, tortured, mutilated on farms in South Africa. I had the sad task last night of reporting the murder of Colonel Wesse's, a 66-year-old veteran of the South African Defense Force in the Bush War, who won the highest honor in South Africa for his gallant actions on the battlefield during the Bush War, when he saved a comrade, a black soldier, and in the process lost a leg. Spent the rest of his life in extreme pain as a consequence of that leg loss, only to be brutally murdered on his farm just 5 days ago with a bag over his head. No one deserves to die in that fashion. The ANC must be voted out of office because it won't answer the pleas of South Africans, white, black, brown, or colored, Indian. It won't answer your pleas. So the only way to make them listen is to vote them out of office. Ladies and gentlemen, it's another sad day in South Africa, just another day in South Africa. South Africans are inured to this kind of tragedy, but the world must know. The world must know what is taking place in South Africa each and every day. The horror that ordinary South Africans must live with, the fear, the insecurity, as the feckless, useless security system and state fail them each and every day. Well, folks, if you're not a subscriber to Chris White Africa, I ask you to take a moment to subscribe by pushing that subscription button right down there. Be sure to toggle the bell icon to make sure you get notified of updates. Feel free to leave a comment, and I ask that you smash the like button because likes drive viewership. Thank you so much for your support. The world must know, folks. The world must know.